Hi, this is Jose Palomino with another exciting episode of the Revenue Throughput Podcast. And our guest today is Kerry Barrett of Kerry Barrett Consulting. And Kerry is an Emmy award-winning reporter who now helps other people, businesses, solopreneurs, consultants, all kinds of professional folks, all the way up to the C-suite in large companies, get ready for their moment on video, on media, in this whole new world that we're in right now that we have to get good at. She's among the best. So can't wait to hear from Kerry. So let's let her into our show right now. Well, welcome, Kerry, to the Revenue Throughput Podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I can't wait to start the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think one thing that's very helpful in terms of giving context to our listeners is just, a little bit more about what you do and who you do it for, and then we'll take it from there.
Absolutely. So thank you again for having me. To give a quick primer, if you will, on my background, I have a 20-year career as an Emmy award-winning news anchor, reporter, producer. I was down in Philadelphia for a while. I finished my career up at NBC in New York City. Now I'm taking everything that I learned about using video, visual storytelling, on-camera presentation to help my clients expand their presence in both the digital landscape and in the media landscape. So through media training, through PR, through content creation and video storytelling to, highlight and amplify people's awareness of their brand or their product or their service.
Okay, that's very helpful, Kerry. And I want to just focus in on a subset of, perhaps, I'm sure you serve a wide range of different kind of companies and people. And most of our listeners and what we focus on with the Revenue Throughput Podcast is generally a B2B business owner.
Mm-hmm.
So they tend to be in somewhat industrial categories. You would
Sure.
kind of think of them as either manufacturing, distribution, and so on. But my point in laying out that context is that they also all know, and I've talked to lots of them through the years, they wish they could get more out there. They
Yeah.
would like to be out there and find venues and so on, but they don't have a clue how to do that. Well, like a Fortune 500 company has a media department
Sure.
and so on.
And a
So
whole bunch of PR handlers.
yeah, absolutely. And they don't have any of that, yet they're big enough. These are 10, 20,
Yeah,
$30 million companies where they would benefit from that.
sure.
So maybe to start that line of inquiry would be simply, what are some things they can do to maybe better prepare themselves to to find opportunities? Like, what would some tips be that you might give that owner that I just laid out?
So it's a great question. And you're absolutely right. I mean, getting PR opportunities is one of, excuse me, one of the most effective and efficient ways to scale on a mass level, both your visibility and your credibility. And the idea there is, of course, to bring potential clients to your door. At least that's the idea for most people. I have other clients who are looking for PR who really just want all of the different badges of all of the media outlets that they've appeared on or written in as a credibility marker on their website. And then I have other clients who look for PR almost entirely as a way to enhance their ability to recruit top talent. So using PR has an end goal that is different depending on who you are, what you do, where you do it, where you are in your growth process, all of that. When
So
it comes
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
when it comes to figuring out how to best position yourself, right? One of the easiest things to do that is forgotten for the most part, I think, especially in B2B, is your social media. And I know that sounds very basic, like, really, I need to have, social media? Well, duh. But probably is slightly different terms than the way most people are accustomed to thinking about B2B. And the reason is this: when you pitch yourself, and I don't mean just LinkedIn, I mean across the board, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, if it's appropriate, if you have product or thought leadership pieces you want to share there, all of those different platforms, when you pitch yourself, right, until you have found a broad awareness of either your personal brand, your business brand, your company, the first thing anybody who is vetting you to appear either on a TV network or as a contributor to an article or anything, a guest on a podcast, they're probably going to check out your social media, and they're going to want to see a couple of things. They're going to see that you have credibility, that you hopefully maybe even bring an audience. If you can bring an audience with you that you can guarantee, done. And that you are able to speak effectively and coherently on a broader scale. And so having a social media following, or at least posting regularly on those platforms, is incredibly important in terms of positioning yourself to be a great contributor, maybe even a regular contributor. And the reason is this: aside from what I just told you, and I'm going to use TV as my backdrop here because that's the bulk of my media experience. I spent 20 years in that industry. If somebody is pitching themselves to a producer with, let's say, a financial segment of some sort, and that producer, that finance person may be a household name in the finance industry, but if that producer has not heard of that person, the first thing they're going to do is go and check their social media platforms, and they're going to look for content, and they're going to look for credibility and all that other stuff. But they're also going to see, is there anybody else within the media world to whom I assign credibility that follows them? Is there another financial expert that I know that follows them? Is there another producer I know that follows them, or somebody else who was in the media? Because those signs all give credibility automatically. So the first thing I think when it comes to positioning yourself is you need to have a steady platform. I will say this as a side note: Twitter, although it is fading in popularity outside of newsrooms, it is still a place where the media mines for new talent. So if there is something that's going on in your industry that is trending, or that is, in the news cycle, finding those stories on Twitter, and there will be stories if it is trending, and then retweeting or adding some commentary or analysis is a pretty easy thing to do. And it's a great way of having the opportunity, at least getting your business and your name in front of potential media opportunities.
So Kerry, so thank you.
Yeah.
There's a such richness in terms of just understanding the framework. So people might do this, as you said, to reach customers, right? So the obvious thing is,
Sure.
and I could visualize that conversation with an owner saying, yeah, I'll make the effort, I'll spend the money, but I have to see an ROI in X period of time to get, I have to see customers happen from it. The other one is, maybe I don't need customers to come from that, because I can reach them myself. But when I reach them, I want to feel very credible, positions me well to negotiate, all those other reasons. And the third, which I think is often underlooked or not looked at very well, is just I got to find good people who want to come work for me, and who actually are excited about the opportunity. And I don't want to have to always outbid all my competitors by 20%, because then my cost of labor goes up. It doesn't work. And then the other thing is to get positioned. You mentioned, and it just really resonated with me. The fact is that the people making decisions as to who's going to be on our show, who we're going to interview for this magazine or for this podcast or whatever, those people tend to be very social savvy. That's where they're looking for this stuff, right? So they're not looking up like a press release to see, executive so-and-so is now available for interviews.
Well, it's interesting. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because just piggyback on that for a second. If somebody releases a press release about something, and they're pitching one of their clients, let's say a PR agency, hey, this thing is going on and you should have our guy talk about it. The chances is that if that producer already knows somebody in that industry, or has established a connection with, PR has changed. It's not all about media relations anymore. There's a ton beyond that. However, it is still about relationships. And if they know somebody, or they follow someone on social who they already know is a great speaker and can deliver an interview, and it speaks in concise, clear sound bites, if you will, even if it's for a magazine, they're going to say, hey, you know what? I got this press release today. is this something you can talk about? Because you're already a known quantity. Oh, you can? Great. We're going to book you instead. So having that to fall back on is incredibly important.
So relationships, which is so interesting. So many of my conversations with people, we talk about really like strategic things and so on, and it all comes back to relationships. It
Yeah.
actually matters. So as you go out there, and I know some of the things you do around, let's say, video and helping people produce their presence on video. Um, anybody with an iPhone can create a video these days,
Sure.
and Zoom is, we create instant video and so on. So why is that a big deal, and can you get it wrong? You have all the
Yeah.
tools. I mean, I can have my 17-year-old take me on, do a video shoot for me.
Don't
Why
do
don't I?
that.
Why don't I just do that?
Don't do that. And also don't hire your 13-year-old niece to post for you either.
Okay.
Yes, you can absolutely get it wrong. And I like to say the opposite of good video it's not bad video, it's off video. People
Okay.
don't watch it. The opposite of good is off. And the thing that most people get wrong, there's a few of them actually. Most people don't understand that their video cannot be boring. There is far too much out there. I don't care if you're talking about finance, insurance, any other number of sort of buttoned up industries. There is lots of great video out there that is entertaining. And I don't mean it needs to be goofy, but it does need to be entertaining in that it needs to engage your viewer. And your viewer, you need to sort of take their hand and carry them from the beginning to the end. If you go on YouTube and you look up, making it up, financial planning videos, you will see financial planning videos that have literally millions of views because the people, they're giving the very same content as the other person who has 2 views, but they're doing it in a much more engaging way. And that does a couple of things for them. Number one, it obviously boosts their SEO rankings, their search engine rankings, when people are looking for information about financial planning or investment. And number two, if you're looking to position yourself in the media, who do you think they're going to want to bring on? Is it somebody who has an audience of 2 and puts half of the audience to sleep 30 seconds into the video? Or is it someone who can take a boring subject like, and I don't mean to paint all financial stories as boring. Sorry, I didn't mean that.
Not more
I take
into
that
them,
back. But if you can take a subject that's somewhat dry and straight laced and make it interesting, that's who they're going to want to talk to. So yes, you can get it wrong. Usually the thing people get wrong is they don't understand the value of the entertainment of the video. Again, doesn't mean goofy, but it means you can capture someone's attention at the beginning and carry it through to the end. That usually involves 5 elements. You cannot be boring, right? You cannot be unfriendly. You cannot be unexciting. You cannot be uncompelling. People focus very much on the words that they're saying in the content, but often forget that when it comes to video, the delivery of those words is just as, if not more important than the words themselves. I sort of liken a great video to a boring video by comparing them to a website so we can sort of get a visual. And what I mean by that is, let's say you open a website and it's just word after word after word after word after word, and there's no delineation between sentences and paragraphs and clear thoughts and main points. And then you open a website that has the exact same words. However, it is accentuated with infographics or maybe a little animation, and there are clearly defined thoughts, and they're showcased in clearly defined paragraphs, and the main points are bolded. And then if there's a list item, they're bulleted, right? The words themselves are exactly the same, but which website are you going to stick around and actually read? If you're like most people, it's the second. And that's the difference between boring video and compelling video. Also, one other note, I see people make this mistake far too often. They start off with a very long, drawn out logistical setup of who they are, what they do, how they do it, why they do it, their hashtags, their website, the yada, yada, yada. You have
By
7
then you're
seconds.
next, right? You're
Yeah,
on to
exactly.
some,
You have
right.
7 seconds to get somebody's attention. So put get their attention, I should say, by putting value up front and delivering it in a compelling way. If you are compelling and people are interested in what you're saying, they will stick around to find out who you are, or they'll do a little bit of research. If you're on LinkedIn and they're watching a video on your profile, guess what? All they have to do is click your avatar and everything they need to know is right there. So skip the boring, long, drawn out logistical setup in the beginning and get right to what is compelling for your viewer.
Right. So people's attention spans have just shrunk radically, right? So
There was a study from Microsoft, I want to say like 2 years ago, that said the average human's attention span was 7.6 seconds, and they expected it to drop by 2 seconds a year. So I don't know where that puts us right now, but it's pretty bleak.
wow. Yeah, that is challenging. So
Yeah.
so that raises a kind of a different question because I'm hearing this. I said, don't be boring, don't be
Yeah.
unfriendly, don't be unexciting, don't be uncompelling, and be very succinct, get to the point, all of that. So somebody listening to this interview and says, well, gee, Kerry, that sounds great, but I would, if I was going to be a 60 Minutes host, I would have been a 60 Minutes host.
Right.
So I don't have the skill set. I don't have the personality. My wife loves me, but, no one else thinks I'm that interesting, whatever. So how do you help that person say, is there a point where you actually meet with somebody and say, okay, there's just nothing we're going to do here to dress this thing up
Yeah.
to make it interesting, or can most people bridge the gap to some degree?
Yeah. Most people can bridge the gap to some degree. So I'll give you a couple of quick examples. There are clients who, you're right, are sort of wooden or very wooden, and I have some of them right now. And I work with them on presentation, B, on understanding the importance of storytelling and emotion, even if they're very small stories, and how that hooks the audience. Oftentimes, when people are telling stories rather than reciting statistics and data, their personality opens up
Mm,
automatically,
sure.
right? Because they're talking about something that's naturally engaging. So, knowing what content to include and where to include it is key. The second part is knowing that if you're not that great on camera, you shouldn't be doing 10-minute videos. You should be doing 30 to 60-second videos, right? So know your strengths, know your weaknesses, know where you need to dial back. Third is if someone is needing to put out video content, and let's say I'm recording a brand interview. It's a service I offer. I record a brand interview with a client, and then I chop it up and I edit it and I put captions on it and I deliver it to them for use on social. Magical things can happen in post production. You can take somebody who has not as much personality as they should necessarily, and really dress it up for pieces on LinkedIn or the website. So through the magic of editing, adding graphics or music, even perhaps if it's appropriate, and captions at the bottom, you can take a relatively bland delivery and make it something special. Are they going to get on TV with that? Or probably not, but they're going to have effective content for their social media, and they have a good chance of bringing someone along. The other thing is, and I have clients who I help in this way, they know they need video content, but for whatever reason, they just don't want to be on camera, whether it's they're not ready for it, we haven't fully completed their training, they don't have the capacity for training, whatever. In those cases, I would consider hiring somebody to speak for you. And a number of my clients do that. I will create the videos for them as the face of their brand. Somehow, though, you've got to get video content out there. Every company, as they say, especially now, is a media company. Media boosts your SEO rankings. Businesses who use video grow almost twice as quickly as those who do not. Video consumption is up like 527% or something in the past 3 years. So it's where more than 80% of your clients are, right? That they're researching products, they're understanding how things work, they're learning, by listening in educational series. And so getting there just for your own good in terms of expanding your business's visibility and credibility is important. And if you're looking to further that expansion through the use of PR and media engagement and media exposure, you need to have that content as well to showcase to them, look, I am credible. I can talk about this. I'd like to contribute to your program or your platform or your outlet or whatever it is.
Well, there's two quick things that come to mind here as we're getting close to our time here, Kerry. And thank you so much for this. This is like a mini master class on all things video production.
My pleasure.
Very, very helpful. One is, I'm just curious, is have you run into clients who are not self-aware of where they are on the readiness scale?
Oh yeah.
And you have to deliver the bad news, like, I don't mean to tell them they have a face for radio, but
no. But here's the thing. Absolutely. I have clients who are not finished products yet, and I say that to them. You're not a finished product yet. You're doing really well, but you have a ways more to go. And the key to improving, whether you're working with somebody or not, and this is painful, but it's just sit down in front of your computer, open up a Zoom window or whatever it is that you use, and practice for 5 minutes a day. That's the only way to get used to it. But I find that for people who have an idea of the best practices or the way to do things, it's by that actual execution, if you will, implementation of those ideas that it gets better. But nobody is served if someone is putting video together or looking to secure media exposure and they're not ready. And so then it's my job. I don't do the poop sandwich thing because I don't think it serves anybody. I just say, listen, you're not ready yet. You'll get ready, but it's not now. These are the things that we need to work on, and here's our curriculum, and let's get to it.
So just as a fellow consultant practitioner, I love the positioning of that. You just have a little bit ways to go here.
The thing about video and really public speaking as well, which I train in also, is that people bring a lot of baggage to it. I get it. I used to hate public speaking. I hated being on camera. I still don't like listening or watching myself. So people bring all of their bad experiences with presentation to it. And so there is a little piece of this that is somewhat therapeutic, understanding where that baggage comes from and how to work through it. So while I don't pull any punches, I try and explain the truth in a way that is not absolutely devastating.
That's it. You have to let them recover so they can do something about it.
Yes, that's key.
Well, Kerry, we have run up against our time, so thank you again for your generous sharing here. And if somebody listening to this said, gee, this sounds like the kind of thing I need and could use some help with, how would they best learn about you or get a hold of you? And we'll have it in the show notes, but a lot of people will just be listening.
Of course, absolutely. And I appreciate that. You can find me on any of the social media platforms at Kerry Barrett Consulting, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, the whole 9 yards, TikTok even a little bit, and LinkedIn. The easiest thing to do probably is to go to my website, Kerry, Kerry, Barrett, Barrett, consulting.com, kerrybarrettconsulting.com. And you can find my email, my phone number, all of my social media there. Please reach out. I'd be happy to schedule a conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. I hope you got something out of it and that the audience did as well.
Absolutely. Take care.